Thanks so much, Michelle, and hello, everybody. I'm Zoe, and thank you genuinely for choosing to spend this hour with me and choosing to spend this hour with yourself and doing some reflection and some playing. So today I'm going to be sharing with you a creative journaling technique, and we're going to be mixing together art making and writing, which I think is just a really beautiful combination. Like, journaling in itself is a really wonderful opportunity for you to focus in on yourself, to give yourself that chance to wonder about your experience or to document the memories of your life as they're happening and really honor the person that you are today. And when we bring in the art making component into that, you're giving yourself the chance to integrate, both hemispheres of the brain, that rational thinking part of ourself that really dominates our world. And it gives space for that emotional self, that intuitive self to come through. And when you combine those two, you're giving yourself that chance to maybe step beyond what you already know about yourself and go into that more unconscious, more unaware part of your life. And you might get to know something about yourself that you didn't know before. And so that's why I'm a big fan of combining the two. It's also really playful. And as adults, we need more play in our days every day. So it's great. Now, I know that I recommended a nice, diverse material selection. So I'm hoping that everyone has their art materials with them nearby and really accessible. If you don't, go grab anything that you want to play with. You can literally do this with just a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil. But if you have other materials like crayons, markers, paints, any sculptural materials like Play-Doh or collage that you want to play with, then bring that in. The reason why I want to invite you to have a nice wealth of materials with you is that then gives yourself the chance to play with different things, to experiment with them, and to see what your experience might look like in 2 or 3 different types of materials. So give yourself that chance to play with those affordances and those limitations of those tools beside you. Let's see. And with that, I'm going to be guiding you through a series of image making. So I've asked you to have at least 4 pieces of paper nearby. If you have that, great. If you don't, also great. One thing that I'd like to remind you of is that if you are making images on paper, your paper does not need to stay flat. You're welcome to crumple it up, to fold it, to tear it. You really can change the shape in any way that you need to. And if you're going to be making sculptures, then just let yourself really intuitively dive into that. I'm going to be referring to it as an image, but that can also include a sculpture if you're going in that direction. And with all of my prompts, interpret them as you wish. So I'm going to be minding the time. It may seem like we're going through a bit quickly because we're going to try and make so many images, but I want that to give you a nice holistic experience. And then these are prompts that you can use in your everyday if you want to go back and revisit things or use it as a chance to kind of reset in your days. Our days are busy. I also, before we dive in, I want to thank you all for having your videos turned on. It's really a gift to me as a presenter to feel your presence, to see you here. You may choose if you want to have the camera pointed towards your face while you do your art making, or if you want, you can change the view. I don't have any materials here. You can see my notes, right? And then we can watch you making your art, doing your journaling as you engage it that way. That can be a nice way to sometimes depersonalize the experience a little bit, but also to show that we're all creating in the same way. And you can get inspiration from other people. And so with that said, let's get into it. Grab that first piece of paper and bring it in front of you. And let your hand choose any material that you're feeling drawn to right off of the beginning. There's no right or wrong choice here. Let yourself get comfortable wherever you are. If you need to just wiggle your hips and really feel settled in your seat. Our first point of reflection is I want you to make an image of what you've just come through today to be here right now. What have you come through to be here today? I'm going to put that in the chat in case people want to have a look at it there. And it's kind of a strange question for an image, I know. Let's see what comes up for you. We'll take about 5 minutes here. And again, that reminder that if the material that you chose doesn't feel like the right one, then switch. If you find yourself getting stuck on this question of what have you come through to be here today, what about trying to hold your tool, your pen, your pencil, your marker in your opposite hand? See if that changes your way into this question. I'll take another few minutes here. We'll take another 30 seconds here. So let your hand kind of slow down in wherever it is in the image making. And when you're ready, find a place for it to pause. once you've paused, take a moment to look at what you've just created. We're going to switch over into the writing, a little bit of reflection. You can write on this page that you've just made an image on, or bring up one nearby. Write down, what did you notice? Or where did your mind go while you were making this image? Does this image stir up any feelings for you? I've put these reflection points in the chat in case you want to refer to them. And we're going to spend about 5 minutes with these questions.
Zoe, any suggestions for deeper reflection? I have a really bad habit of finishing things like this really quickly.
Oh, you were prompt, hey, Michelle? That's great. So if you notice that your reflection was pretty prompt and maybe surface level, and I don't mean that with any judgment, but be curious about that. What would happen if you were to change the angle of your image? So you rotate the page a little bit. Does that give you a new perspective into what you've just come through? And when you interpreted that question, like, what have you come through? Was that something that happened a few hours earlier today? Has it been this past month, this past year? Like, how long did you go back into your experience to bring yourself to this moment? And if you come up against any resistance, then I invite you to let that, maybe that inner angst come through. Like, I remember when I was a teenager and, we were encouraged to think about things and I'd be like, no, I don't want to. That voice is so legit, and bring it into this and let's see, where is that, that tension? What is it trying to tell you? We're going to take just one more minute here. Let your written reflection come to a pause somewhere. Finish up that sentence, that thought. And once you have, you can move this first image off to the side. We're done with it for now, but not within this whole journaling series. Kim, I have to say it's really fun to watch your image come to life on the page. So thank you for that. So for this next image, again, bring that piece of paper in front of you. If you want to switch up materials, you're more than welcome to. For this image, we're going to actually be doing 3 different points of reflection as we create this image. And it's all about tuning into yourself, these different parts of ourselves that navigate through our days and kind of experience our interactions differently. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes if that feels okay for you to do. If not, then just let your gaze soften, maybe somewhere away from your page. Trust that your hand knows how to hold a piece of art material and to trace around the page in whichever way it wants. The first point of reflection that I want to guide you through is your thoughts. So with your eyes closed, can you trace your thoughts? Again, a very abstract way of getting into our experience. But with that, let your hand kind of follow the pace, the cadence of your thoughts. Are they racing or moving slowly? Let your hand find that speed. And is your thought a coherent flow? Is it all on the same topic, or are you jumping around? If you're jumping around or moving around, how can you show that with the line or the lines that you're making? If your thoughts stay in one place, what does that look like? Chrisella, great question. We're going to be making this reflection on a new page. So this is image number 2. And let your thoughts, that tracing, just kind of fill up this page as much or as little as it needs to. We're going to take just 1 more minute here. And again, just like the first image, let yourself find a place to pause in this check-in. You can open your eyes and take note of what you've just created. And then if you want, choose a new material or stay with the same one. We're going to do a second check-in. I invite you to use this same page that you've just created this first tracing on. So keep it nearby. And this time, again, with your eyes closed or with your gaze softened, we're going to tune into your breath. And tracing again, your inhale and your exhale. We're going to spend 2 minutes here. Tracing your inhale and then your exhale at whatever speed and depth that feels natural to you. And let yourself take 5 more breaths at whatever pace you're at. And on that exhale of your 5th breath, go ahead and open your eyes and just take note of what you've created. How your image has changed, grown. And then for our 3rd check-in, again, if you want to change materials or change colors, I invite you to do so. Barbara asked a really beautiful question about thinking really literally. And if you're stuck in that literal thinking, that's okay. That might be where your mind is at right now. Do you feel comfortable maybe sharing a little bit more about what that experience is like for you? Barbara, yeah. You, Barbara, yeah.
What are you asking?
You say you're thinking really literally right now.
Yeah, it's hard to, it's such an abstract question. It's hard to, never having done this before. I feel like I'm trying to, I don't know. It's like I'm really thinking of like literal shapes or literal places. And I don't know if that is helping the exercise or if there's no wrong answer.
So literal shapes and literal places are beautiful things to bring into your art making. And I know I've kind of pushed you all into the deep depths of abstract thinking. And I do that just to see where you go. Like, do you dive deep to the bottom or do you float on the surface? And I honestly believe that every time we get into art making, some days it's going to be very literal, very symbolic, or just exactly what we're hearing. And then some days we're going to go really wild with it, and we ebb and flow between those ways of thinking.
Guess I was worried about doing it wrong.
Oh, yeah, Barbara, there is. Oh, I should have said that at the beginning. Oh, this is a huge foundation in art therapy, is that every image that you make, every mark that you put on paper is so wonderfully welcome. And there's so much value in something as weird as a scribble. And there's something as valuable as, a masterpiece. Like whatever you bring to the page, it has meaning, it has release. And I welcome that. And if you notice that your perfectionist is along for the ride today, then welcome that perfectionist in. Tell them to have a seat and take a look. My perfectionist is always super real. And one thing that I found that's helped me kind of bypass that perfectionist self is to use my non-dominant hand. I find that for some reason, I'm much more forgiving when I make a image that looks a little bit weird with the hand that doesn't know how to draw. So maybe give that a go and see what comes up. With that, thank you, Barbara, for asking this question and taking us on this wonderful direction. I welcome any of you to chime in, as we are this creative community. We're going to do our last self-reflection or check-in point on this same page again. And so if you want to get a little crazy, you can use your non-dominant hand. This time, I want us to go looking for sensations in our body. So again, closing your eyes or softening your gaze. And what I mean by sensations is that can be either a physical sensation, maybe a tension or an ease that you feel in your body, or something emotional. Maybe you're holding some excitement or frustration or sadness or anger somewhere in your body. Let that, whatever it is, whatever that tension or sensation or ease is, be curious about where it is in your body. I'm sure we have a lot of different places in our body that's feeling something. So we'll do a quick little scan starting kind of near the top of our minds and just slowly working its way down to our cheekbones, our jaws, our tongues, our mouths, down to your neck and your shoulders, tracing down the length of your arms to your fingertips, back up to your armpits and then down your torso, over your chest and down through your stomach, to your hips and your seat, down the trunks of your legs to the soles of your feet. And if you found anything in that quick body scan that caught your attention, go back to it. Be curious about it. How big is it? Does it have weight? Does it have a shape? Is it static or fluid? Whatever it might be, let it come from wherever it is nestled in your body. Let it move through your arm, out onto the page and onto that piece of paper, taking up as much or as little space as it takes up in your body. And we'll take 2 minutes here. And I know this is another abstract concept. Let yourself play with it a little bit. See what comes up if you let yourself be a little bit weird. And wherever you are in your image making, allow your hands to slow. Finish a mark if you need to. And pause. And once you've paused, take a look at your image. Let's jump back over to writing. So grab that piece of paper if you're writing on a separate page, or on this one if you want to write right on the image. first be curious about how these 3 different check-ins are interacting on the page. Do you remember sequentially which image came first, or do they all blend together as one now? I'd be curious to know if one check-in dominates the others. So does that mind tracing your thoughts take up the most space? Or is it the most vibrant color? Or your breath, is that really present on the page? Or maybe the sensations, those tensions, whether emotional or physical, do those take up the most space on the page? It may also be worth thinking about which check-in was the most comfortable one to do, or which one stirred up the most discomfort. And for either of those directions of thinking, why do you think that one was more comfortable than the other two, or that one was much more uncomfortable than the other two? If you feel like you might need a new way into this written reflection, go ahead and turn the page around again. Look at it from different angles. Michelle, you're already noticing similarities between your images. Oh, wow. Barbara, I see yours there.
Zoe, can we share?
Yes, I love that. Please do. If you feel like sharing, lift it up to the screen and we can all take a moment and just see what's come up for everybody.
I'm no artiste, but my first image was pretty much a tornado. Here. And I noticed that was very similar to my thoughts and my breath, which I'm realizing, just and also the physical check-in was just all tension and trying to carry it and, kind of calming those thoughts.
So you've, in your reflection, have noticed that you need something to maybe ground you a little bit more, that you're navigating so much right now. And it seems very intertwined, intermingled, and all-consuming.
Yeah, I think I am a tornado.
I can only imagine what you've come through in these last days and weeks leading up to, putting together this event for everybody, but everything else on top of that as well is sometimes it can be a lot to be navigating. We'll take another minute or two here with this written reflection. did anything surprise you, this image? Emma, that's a really interesting point of reflection, to notice where you're happy in life, where things are going smoothly and nicely, and where things are not, where's the tension. Having that chance to get that awareness of places that feel good and places that don't feel good is really powerful, because it then gives you the chance to make those changes, whether they're really subtle changes or big changes. It gives you that power to take action. It stirred up a lot for you, Emma. Thank you for being so vulnerable. Sometimes these images are powerful. Not always, but when we get those ones that kind of strike that chord with us, it can maybe feel a bit overwhelming at times. With the image, I guess my philosophy is that you've taken something within you and you've taken it out and put it onto paper. So you now have that chance to get some space from it, to be curious about it, or to put it away somewhere else outside of you if you want some like real distance from it. So if you need to move any image that you've made like further away from you right now, I invite you to do so. And with that, I'm going to invite you to kind of let your written thoughts come to a pause somewhere. And we're going to move on to our third image. So grab a fresh piece of paper this time. And you know, you've got full freedom to choose any material that you want to play with. With this image, I want you to think about what you're moving into next. What happens after this moment? You may take that as literally or as figuratively as you want. You can be abstract or concrete about it. What are you moving into next? We'll take another minute with this image. Wherever you are in this image, allow your hand to slow down, to find a place to pause. And like we've done every time before, we're going to jump back into our writing. Where did your mind go while you were making this image? Or what do you notice? Does this image stir up any feelings for you? Anything different, or maybe the same as every other image that you've made today? Let that curiosity into your experience just come through. Something's changed for you, Michelle. Perhaps a welcome change? If you're deep in your reflective process here, then I'm going to invite you to stay with your thoughts. I'm going to let you know what happens next. The fourth and final image that I'm going to invite you to make today is one in response to the three images that you've made so far. So what I would invite you to do is bring those three images in front of you, unless of course you've chosen to take some distance from one or some of them. Let them stay where they are. But take a look at the images in front of you and see if you can find any common themes, or perhaps how they interact together. Do they inspire you to move into something, or move away from something. And this last image that you make can be a drawing, a sculpture, or writing if you feel like you want to dive deep into the written words. This is your chance to respond to everything that you've just released. Wherever you are in your art making or your writing, I invite you to stay there. Keep creating. But I just wanted to say a few things about what we've just gone through. I chose these prompts very deliberately because I think that they're a beautiful way for you to check in with your experience on an ongoing basis. That first prompt of reflecting on what you've just gone through to show up where you are right now is a way for you to honor your experience, whether going way back into the past or something a little bit more recently. We go through a lot every day, and sometimes it's really nice to just take stock of that, to reflect on the hard things and the good things that you've gone through, to shape you as you are right now. That second piece where we did the check-ins, those are 3 ways that you can get into your experience. Noticing the pace and cadence of your thoughts, whether they seem coherent or all over the place. I know from my own experience, my thoughts change on a day-to-day basis, just depending on what I'm going through. So sometimes it's nice to just notice. And the same with your breath. Your breath is your anchor in this world. And I know there's a lot of talk about, taking slow breaths to calm yourself. But sometimes it's nice just to notice how you're doing right now. Whether our breath comes in quickly or slowly, it's still coming in to nourish us and get us through to the next moment. And then our bodies are so resilient and they can hold so much. And looking for those places of tension or ease, and being curious about how they change, can give you insight into how your body is responding to what you're going through and what you might need more of or what you might need less of. That third image we made about, thinking about what you're going into is a beautiful way for you to, play with your imagination and think about what might be coming up and whether that's something you want to manifest and move into or something that you feel you need to find ways to navigate around. And with this last piece that you've just been working on, that's your way to integrate all of your experiences. To take stock of what you've just created. And maybe that felt a little bit weird for some of you today, maybe a new way of diving into your journaling experience. But what a beautiful gift to give yourself is to do something new. And especially now when we're caught in this very repetitive lifestyle, trying new things and finding ways to integrate our experiences so that we can have these different perspectives in. I think it's a nice way to just think a little bit outside the box. So I know we have just a few minutes left. If you're still creating, stay with that for as long as you need. Feel free to revisit any of these prompts at any time. See how they change. Be curious about it. I'm sure each image will be different each time you make it. And I know Michelle said that I'm offering free consultations. So if any of you have just that spark of curiosity about how integrating conversation and art making can deepen your growth into yourself or into a direction that you want to go, I invite you to do that. I've put the link in our chat in case you want to jump on that. Otherwise, does anyone have any questions, or would anyone like to share some of the images that you've made? I would love to see them. Yeah. Sometimes these images can be quite personal, quite vulnerable. And perhaps for those of you who have your cameras on, with your fingers, 1, 2, 3, or 4, which image did you enjoy making the most? number 3, number 4. Okay, so number 3, thinking ahead to what you're going into. Number 4, having that chance to integrate all of them. Yeah. Which one was the most uncomfortable for you to make? Number 1, number 2. Yeah. Taking note of what you just come through sometimes is uncomfortable. Sometimes checking in with ourselves is uncomfortable. And I saw number 4 there as well. Figuring out how to integrate these experiences or make a response to an image. That's something that I've practiced a lot, so it's probably very comfortable and familiar to me. But yeah, I appreciate all of you showing up today, spending this time with me and spending this time with yourself. I really hope that this has been valuable, and I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Zoe. This is great, and reflection, and definitely something new. So it was really fun. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, wherever it takes you.
Thank you. The next
Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you.